All right. I am so excited to talk to y'all about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 2. I was so excited when this movie did really the first movie did really well, and we're getting, news that we were getting a second one. So my first question is for you, for Rhys and Matt. What would you say was the biggest changes that you guys made between part one and part two?
Um, yeah, maybe everything. It's hard to like pinpoint one thing, but with the first film, there was um there was a lot of constraints I was under when making it in terms of like budget, time frame. Like I had to get the script done for differing reasons in about like less than a week. So because of that, it's not really as good as it potentially can be. There's a lot more we could really do with the concept. So following the first film, once that came out, and then we got Matt on board, we kind of wanted to make sure that we weren't like constrained by some of the decisions made in the first film, and we weren't essentially taking a bit of a rocky foundation and trying to build on top of it and patch it. So instead, we thought, okay, look, just forget about that. We'll just try to do what's best for the franchise and the film going forwards. And then some of that includes, for example, changing the protagonist. So we're no longer following the group of girls. It's clearly Christopher Robin who's the protagonist, which obviously makes a lot more sense because that's who the original books are about. It's all about Pooh and Christopher Robin. The creatures all been completely redesigned, so they all have a look. This is him now. This is like the new Pooh versus, I don't know if he's behind me or maybe it was moved, but the old
He's
Pooh
in the
was
suitcase.
oh, is he?
He's
He's
going
a
to
bit
LA.
more. He's coming to LA. He's got a bit. He's a bit goofier and a bit campier. And in the first film, I intentionally wanted it to be a bit silly and a bit camp and a bit like almost B movie. But with the sequel, I thought, okay, tonally, we're going to shift this into a more kind of grounded and serious direction. So they're like the biggest changes: the creatures, the actors, the tone. I'm describing a different film almost.
Nice. And I saw in the trailer that they talk now, and I think I read, because I've been following the news ever, with the first production, that it was for legal reasons why you had to sort of keep them quiet, but now they're talking. So I would love to hear from you, Rhys, if like what changed that they can kind of talk and be a little bit more articulate now.
Yeah, so it's some of it was legal reasons, but it was also not like due to like almost a nervousness about it because we are probably some of the first, I think we are the first people to, as soon as something's come in public domain, 2 or 3 months later, we're making it. Like no one else has really done that. And this is a concept and a character which is so was so intimately tied to Disney prior to that that I was intentionally trying to be as distant as possible. So when I made it, it was like I had two directions I could go with Winnie the Pooh, for example. I could have made him small and a little bit like Chucky. That probably wouldn't have worked very well for budget reasons. So I made him this big slasher guy. So that helps because now he's really far gone from the Disney version of Pooh. There's no way you can like get the two mixed up at all. And then loads of other elements as well. And I thought keeping them more mute was a safer reason because there's less kind of scope for me to accidentally use something, accidentally make them say something which isn't actually in the 1926 source material. It was actually a kind of iteration. It was like Disney's version of it and something they added to the character and their view of him. So it was mostly to do with that. It was to like keep ourselves safe. But since that time, we've had a lot longer to work on the film, and I've been able to be a bit more careful, along with Matt, on what phrases we can use. Like we're only using phrases and only using like mannerisms which are present in those first two books now. So we know there's more of a safe ground to just let them freely talk.
Nice. Yeah, and I also read in a recent interview that you compared him to your Jason. So, Rhys, I was wondering, did that kind of inform how you directed the performer in that as far as like his mannerisms.
Yeah, a bit, yeah. So we've got four villains with this compared to two in the original, and each of them I've tried to make them different to one another. So with Pooh, yeah, he's like Jason, Michael Myers. Tigger, he's got a bit of like Freddy Krueger in him. You've got like Piglet, like bit of like Leatherface in him, and Owl is like Jeepers Creepers, maybe a bit of Pinhead in there too. So with directing them, Tigger, we kind of wanted him to just be really sadistic and like adrenaline fueled. Which makes sense because in the script we had him kind of cooped up in a caged area for a long time. So you'll see scenes where his hands like visibly shaking. So we were kind of directing the actor to be like, imagine you've had like 20 Red Bulls and you just want to fuck these people up. So he's standing there shaking, getting ready to go for it. And with like Pooh, it was just you just want to get in there, slaughter him, and just get out as quick as you can. Like you're aggressive and you're fast. So,
And speaking of performances, Scott, you are Christopher Robin in this movie. Was it a little bit nerve-wracking coming into a role that is already this high profile? Like it's gonna have a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly that. That's how I felt. Like the role itself was quite fun and stuff. Like when I read it on the script, especially, and like, well, before we even had a script, obviously, Rhys was like saying to me like he wanted me to play the role and stuff. And then when Matt came on board, it was even more appealing. But the thing that really, really scared me is like as an actor, you're putting yourself in a really vulnerable situation. You know, just being on camera in the first place, and loads of people, watching it and saying what they want in comments and behind keyboards and stuff, let alone when the film attracts so much hate as well. And I think like with my producing, like I'm okay with it. I don't know why, but like I know what we went through to make it. So I'm okay with any negativity. But with my acting, it's a lot more personal because they make it, it can, the comments can feel personal about how you look and how you talk. And, I don't know, like acting something that I've like worked really hard on for a long time since I was a kid. So yeah, I'm just a bit nervous about next week, like what people are going to say. But I just think I need to take after Rhys and have a thick skin and not listen to it.
Well,
I honestly, I don't think anybody's gonna Scott's performance is so good in this film. Like, the first cut that I got
Oh,
to see, I was like blown away. No, I mean, really, like, the whole movie's sort of on your back, right? Like, you're the character, and
oh,
yeah, I mean, so many scenes that I was just like, damn. I mean, like, it elevates,
oh,
every. It's so important to have good performances in a film, and I think like when it doesn't, it really hurts. And
yeah,
there's really great performances in this film, and Scott leads the way. So I think people are going to be impressed.
oh. Fingers
yeah,
crossed.
and
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Matt.
I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, from the clips that I did see, it looks like you do an awesome job, Scott, and it
Oh, thanks,
looks
guys.
wonderful. Um, so yeah, now is there any it might be kind of early, but is there any kind of word on like the third film? Is it sort of in like pre-production, or can you say anything about that one yet?
so we've announced Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble, and we're and for us at the moment, we're still figuring out what goes first. Is it Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble, or is it Winnie Free? Because it feels like Winnie Free is gonna. We've seen the film, obviously. There have been screeners which have gone out there, and we're getting a lot of really good comments. So someone gave it like 4 stars, who's like a genre critic. All of these like Rotten Tomato critics, they seem to be actually responding well, which is very different to the first film. So we feel like there's a lot of potential that is going to be received well, particularly by the horror audience. And depending on how well it gets received, will kind of dictate what goes first. Do we go straight into Winnie Free or do we go into Pooniverse? Because Pooniverse has had like a lot of traction online. Like it went absolutely mad. So yeah, but regardless, we'll probably be getting Matt on board for either one of those, whatever direction we get, because they are almost equivalent. Like even though Pooniverse is the Avengers style film we've got, I have a feeling it's going to be very centered around the Winnie characters, with the others coming in. So it's almost in a way like Winnie 2.5 or Winnie 3 in itself. So,
Yeah, and I think I read that y'all include a lot of like Easter eggs sort of to, tease this larger universe. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was working with Matt, we were sprinkling bits in where we could, because we thought it was important to make these links to these other films. So, for example, halfway through the film, there's a scene where Christopher Robin's on a laptop, and amongst those links are hints towards Bambi, one of the characters in Winnie the Pooh 2, like is actually going to be a significant character in the Peter Pan universe. So there's all of these kind of like Easter eggs scattered around. There's a map at one point in the style of the original Winnie the Pooh 2, Winnie the Pooh illustrations. And on that map, you can kind of see some hints which me and Matt have placed towards the third film and where it's going to go.
Nice. Now,
what's really cool though is that like with Rhys and I on this film, the focus was always on sort of setting things up toward Pooh 3, and then a lot of the stuff that they did for the broader like Poohniverse is stuff that they did in post that was like really clever. And I think that what I love about that approach is that it was never, this film wasn't about teeing up the broader Poohniverse. This was about making an awesome film that sets up the third Winnie the Pooh. It's like there's a lot of different ways to go, and then a lot of the other Easter eggy stuff that they did was just in really clever editing and different things that they put like on the map and whatever. So I think it was really done organically and smart.
Nice. No, that's awesome. So are you like going further with some of the upcoming films that are kind of going to be linked to the Pooniverse? Yeah. I can never say that right. It does not come off
I
my
don't know if
tongue.
anyone
Sorry.
can.
But yeah, I guess like what I'm trying to say is like, is there any sort like are you guys sort of giving input to the other directors to sort of like fold it into like a I guess like a more
So
shared sort of.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so we work with quite a close group knit of people, like a set of people. So like Scott, for example, even though he's Christopher Robin in Pooh 2 and he's a producer on it, he's actually going to be directing Peter Pan. And
Nice.
likewise, the director of Bambi, he was actually the editor along with me on Winnie the Pooh 2. So we all kind of know each other, and we've all been so like intrinsically, like we've all been so like fundamentally linked on some really crucial creative roles in Winnie the Pooh 2 that it's allowed us to like kind of guide these Easter eggs and bits which will like I'm saying organically lead into their films they're doing, because some of us have tonal differences in how we direct and stuff, but that makes sense because not all of these films should be the same tone. Like for example with Peter Pan, it's ultimately the central premise of that is a guy going into kids' bedrooms and taking children. Like that's very dark. That's black phony like tone, which is very different to like Pooh 2. Pooh 2 is a lot more like popcorny horror, like fun. So there are these tonal differences, but it all kind of still links and makes sense.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really exciting. And it's even more exciting that like this seems to be like a really cool family that, is just, kind of taking this really cool idea and just running with it. I just think that's so cool. So Scott, when are you in pre-production on Peter Pan, or can you say anything about where you are with that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm literally in pre-production now. So like today I was going over the schedule and stuff because we go out to LA tomorrow. So I'm trying to get the schedule locked in because when I get back from LA 2 weeks later, I start beginning to direct Peter Pan. So it's a very intense period at the moment. But yeah, all the casting's done, the locations are done, working on the set design mostly at the moment. And then yeah, SFX is very much on its way. I feel like the character's gonna look I'm so excited about Peter Pan, his look, and Hook's look. Those two, they're gonna look awesome. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be great. And my tone is so different to what Rhys's is. That's one thing that we let people do. Like me and Rhys are very about like what will get the best out of you. So we always say that. Like my SFX team is the same as Winnie the Pooh, and I've said to them, in the script, the death scenes, that's what I've come up with. But if you can excel at something better, just offer it up, and I might like it. And that's the same with the directing styles. Like with me, I just love, like, a big love of mine is actually French horror films. I feel like they're done so well, like especially the acting. It's so gritty, it's so raw. I believe it. I believe they're actually having a breakdown and stuff, and no one's pretty crying and all that. And I love that type of thing. And the tone of, the documentary tone of being like a fly on the wall and stuff. Like, that's what I'm going to be bringing into Peter Pan. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really dark retelling. We've got Tinkerbell. She thinks pixie dust is heroin, and she injects it. And she lives with Peter Pan, and she was abducted when she was a child, which I can say that I've not told anyone else. She was abducted as a child. I won't say what happened there, but she was abducted, and now she lives with Peter Pan, and she's kind of been brainwashed by him. So if you've seen a film called Hounds of Love, which is an Australian film, which I
Yes.
absolutely love, I'm glad you watched it, because there's a lot of people who haven't seen that. But that relationship I found so interesting, and that's what I've tried to give them, if you know what I mean, from that movie. So yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Oh, that is so cool. I have chills right now. I'm so excited. I love that that's like part of your reference. When you said
Yeah,
French horror, I automatically thought of like Diabolique or Eyes Without Face, like all those stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
Because
nice.
we
So I'm sorry.
some yeah, no, I was gonna say something to say all that is like we there's a lot of right now with a lot of like studio horror films, they're going down like a bit of a PG-13 route with what
Mm.
they're doing. Whereas that was something we all kind of unanimously agreed we didn't want to do with this universe. So when you see like Pooh 2 and you see Peter Pan and all that, we aren't we're not like holding back punches. There's not off-screen deaths. There's brutal kills on screen and stuff. So
uh, yeah, that's awesome. Like big horror fan. I wore my like
oh yeah.
obviously love physical media as well. So I'm kind of old school. I love like the use of practical effects in the first film was really awesome. It looks like y'all went that route this time around. So like that's so cool. Um, so I have to wrap up, but I have a final question. So with a version of Mickey Mouse entering the public domain, will that character appear in your shared universe, or you know, is
Well,
that
yeah,
possible?
I was actually developing it last year, and there's a scene from that film that's made its way into Winnie the Pooh, because obviously what happened was I was developing it. I got really excited. I was meant to direct that one into the Peter Pan, but when you actually push further and you look into we got like a film lawyer involved, and just to check it all over and stuff, and it's actually not what it quite seems. So there's a lot of dodgy ground with it. So we actually decided not to do it.
Yeah.
The idea I
I,
had was really cool. He was going to have a cheese grater to kill people and stuff, and he was going to eat cheese as they're slowly dying. But one of the deaths, one of my favorite deaths, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it involves a dishwasher, a knife, and an eyeball, and that made its way into Pooh, and it's one of the best scenes in Pooh.
yeah.
That's
And yeah,
awesome.
we've actually heard like because there's we also was a bit cautious because we knew there was going to be a bit of like a rat race towards it in terms of
Mm,
like it was the next big thing. Like Pooh had came out, it went really popular, and we knew everyone was going to try and go for it. And I think there's been like 3 or 4 films announced, but I don't know how true this is, but we heard things about one of the film recently, like within the week, that there's been something which has happened and they're not able to get like insurance and stuff they need. So I don't know
interesting.
exactly what's happening with it. But that's some of the stuff which we were advised not to go towards that character because of.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it all plays out though.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought is it's probably very dicey right now, and I kind of wonder if Disney wants to make a example out of somebody. But you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's
well,
100% literally what I thought as well. Like the whole making an example, it's like,
mhm,
we're probably the perfect people to do that with, because we did the Winnie the Pooh thing. And I think that's why we were like, you know what, like Mickey Mouse is a great idea, but we could do it with something else. We don't need to do this. We don't need to wind them up. We don't want to wind them up. And our universe
yeah,
will include characters that are nothing to do with Disney as well. Like what we've got in store and what we're brainstorming at the moment for beyond Pooniverse, because me and Rhys, like, we're used to making like 40 feature films a year. So this is us slowing down, only making like
Mm,
four. So we're always like 5 steps ahead, and the stuff that we've got coming, they're not all to do with Disney. So yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
there's
just didn't want to wind them up.
the other thing we didn't want to do is like, because there was going to be this rat race towards this character, there's almost like a first mover advantage where it's like the first person to get a film out normally has a big benefit with it because they kind of go off the kind of shock value. And if we were trying to get something like that done, we knew we'd just have to rush it. And you'd be at a point where it's like it doesn't matter like what the quality of the film is, we just got to pump it out. And that isn't what we really want to do with like these next batch of films. We're really trying to be more like quality focused.
Yeah, we're trying to get
just,
the budgets up and everything.
Yeah. So hopefully people see that. Like we're getting very good comments for Pooh 2. We think it's going to be a really, really good. A lot of people can have a lot of fun in the cinema. They'll be able to see a huge step up relative to number one, and then it'll be an even bigger step up when we go to number three.
Yeah, and just saying as well, it is truly like just to put out there, like it really is the type of film that if you come to the cinema, truly is going to make the difference in the next film. So if you want these to get bigger and better, and like I see comments on the internet, people like complaining about the budgets and all this kind of stuff, they will get better, but like the people above us, like we don't make the decisions in how much these films, have as budget, but it helps us get more money. Like if we have support, honestly, everything will go onwards and upwards, and that's where what we're trying to guide it towards as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I need to wrap up, but I am so excited to see this film. Everybody can watch it March 26th, is that right?
Yeah.
Theatrically.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
right. That's amazing. I'm gonna get my ticket and be there. So look forward to that review. And thank you guys so much for talking to me. I was so excited to hear about this. I love the first film, so I'm really excited for the second film. And you guys have a good one.